Whether intentionally or not, shocking horror movies that were banned for being too disturbing portray scenes that offend the majority of viewers. Horror movies are meant to be a safe way for the audience to explore a variety of fears, depending on the subgenre, but there have been some horror films that were too disturbing and ended up being banned in different countries. While the horror genre has branched out to different subgenres and styles, so much so that it's no longer just about scaring the audience, there have been various horror projects that went beyond their own limits and ended up being deeply disturbing. The Bunny Game, 2010. The Bunny Game is a low-budget avant-garde horror movie released in 2010 and directed by Adam Raymayer. The plot of this notorious film follows a sex worker who suffers from drug addiction named Bunny, Rodleen Gitzik, who is abducted by a truck driver who subjects her to games of extreme torture and sexual abuse. The Bunny Game's sordid premise leads to several graphic and disturbing scenes that led to it being banned in the United Kingdom by the British Board of Film Classification, which called it unacceptable to the public. For its notoriety, the Bunny Game also won several awards at the 2011 Polygrind Film Festival. Grotesque, 2009. Grotesque is an exploitation horror movie released in 2009 and directed by Koji Shiraishi. It's the story of a doctor with extreme and depraved needs who kidnaps a couple and forces them to compete in a twisted game of torment and torture, slowly destroying their hopes of survival. Grotesque has graphic scenes of torture and abuse, which led the British Board of Film Classification to ban the movie's release in the UK. The BBFC explained that, unlike other torture-themed horror movies like Saw and Hostel, Grotesque lacks narrative or character development and could not be cut to fit their standards. Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. A popular example among movies that got more famous after getting banned, Pier Paolo Pasolini's Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, is divided into 4 segments, inspired by Dante's Divine Comedy. It follows 4 wealthy, corrupt Italian libertines in the fascist Republic of Salo who kidnap 18 teenagers to subject them to 4 months of extreme violence, sadism, and psychological and sexual torture. Salo had a brief theatrical run in Italy before being banned, and due to its graphic depictions of youths being subjected to torture, sexual abuse, murder, and more, the movie has been banned and remains banned in several countries, such as Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Hostel, Part 2, 2007. Hostel, Part 2 was directed by Eli Roth and released in 2007. Following the same themes as the first movie, Hostel, Part 2 centers around 3 American female art students in Rome who are tricked into traveling to Slovakia, where they are kidnapped and taken to a facility where rich clients pay to torture and kill other people. Hostel 2 was banned from theatrical release in various countries, including Germany and New Zealand, due to its graphic scenes of torture. Moreover, in 2007, politicians from the UK argued that possessing images from the movie could be deemed illegal via They Work For You. I Spit on Your Grave, 1978. I Spit on Your Grave is a revenge horror movie directed by Mayer Zarki. I Spit on Your Grave follows Jennifer Hills, Camille Keaton, a writer living in New York City who exacts revenge on her 4 abusers who raped her and left her for dead. I Spit on Your Grave was banned in many countries, such as Ireland, Norway, Iceland, and West Germany as it glorified violence against women, and in other countries, it has been edited so it can be released. In the UK, the scenes of rape that focus on Jennifer's body have been banned since the release of a heavily edited cut in 2011. The Last House on the Left, 1972. E.S. Craven's directorial debut film, The Last House on the Left, follows Mari Collingwood, Sandra Peabody, and her friend Phyllis, Lucy Grantham, who encounter a gang of rapists and murderers on their way to a concert in the city. After their murders, the gang unwittingly finds refuge in Mari's family's home, where they face the revenge of her parents. Given its graphic scenes of rape and torture, The Last House on the Left was banned in the UK, and contrary to popular belief, it wasn't banned in Australia on its initial release. But it wasn't picked up for distribution due to its graphic and disturbing scenes. Traces of Death, 1993. Traces of Death is a low-budget Mondo shockumentary based on the cult fake snuff film Faces of Death. Unlike Faces of Death, Traces of Death consists of footage of real deaths and violent scenes. Not surprisingly, Traces of Death was banned in the UK for having no journalistic, educational, or other justifying context for the images shown via BBFC. In fact, Traces of Death and its sequels have been confiscated by customs authorities in Australia, as according to the country's written regulations, they offend against the standards of morality, decency, and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults to the extent that they should not be imported via Australian government. The Human Centipede 2 Full Sequence, 2011. To anyone who's seen them, it's no surprise why the Human Centipede movies are so controversial. The Human Centipede 2 Full Sequence was released in 2011 and was directed by Tom Six and follows Martin Lomax's Lawrence R. Harvey, an intellectually impaired man who becomes obsessed with the human centipede and decides to make his own centipede. Due to its shocking scenes, The Human Centipede 2 was banned in the UK, arguing that no amount of cuts could make the movie acceptable for exhibition. That said, it was eventually released after being edited, but it also continues to be banned in New Zealand. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Ruggero Deodato's Cannibal Holocaust follows an American film crew that disappears in the Amazon rainforest while filming a documentary about indigenous cannibal tribes. While anthropologist Harold Monroe Robert Kerman fails to find the missing crew, he recovers lost cans of film, which an American TV station wishes to broadcast despite their graphic and gruesome content. Cannibal Holocaust's disturbingly realistic violence led to Deodato being charged with multiple counts of murder. He was later cleared of all charged, but Cannibal Holocaust was banned in several countries, including Italy, Australia, the US, Norway, Singapore, and Finland. Though the ban has been lifted in some countries, it continues in many others. A Serbian Film, 2010. Directed by Srđan Spasojevic, a Serbian film follows Miloš Srđan Todorović, a struggling semi-retired porn star who agrees to participate in an art film. But he quickly discovers it's actually a murderous movie with pedophilic and necrophilic themes. A Serbian Film is one of the most disturbing and controversial movies ever made due to its themes and graphic depictions of violence and sexually explicit content. A Serbian Film was banned in many countries, including Germany, Brazil, Malaysia, Spain, and Norway, and while it continues to be banned in several countries, those that released it in some way did so after heavily editing the movie. August Underground, 2001. Director Fred Vogel also stars in August Underground as Peter, who is joined by his unnamed accomplice and camera operator in capturing and torturing several people in their rural town. This leads to many extremely realistic scenes of torture and sexual violence performed by the sadistic duo, who seemingly have no other motive except relishing other people's pain. When he brought the movie into Canada, Vogel was charged by customs with bringing obscene material into the country. Apart from being banned in Austria and other locations, August Underground has become notorious for being one of the many found-footage movies that ripped off the Blair Witch Project. Hakesan, 1922. Inspired by the Malleus Maleficarum and other historical artifacts, director Benjamin Christensen's horror documentary Hakesan tackles the roots of witchcraft throughout the ages. Hakesan's scientific approach to the history of witchcraft garnered positive reception, but censors in the US, Germany, and France weren't too keen on its nude torture scenes. Some critics even accused the movie of anti-clericalism or being anti-religion. After it was banned in the US, however, Hakesan was re-released in 1968 as Witchcraft Through the Ages. The original movie and its American and Swedish restorations have since received praise for Hakesan's innovative storytelling. Today, it's remembered as a silent horror movie that stands the test of time. NECromantic, 1987. Directed by Jörg Buttgereit, the romantic horror film NECromantic revolves around a couple who work for a cleaning service that specializes in gruesome accidents and other scenes. The controversial aspect arises from the necrophilia and graphic violence in NECromantic. Combined with the animal cruelty portrayed in the film, it was banned in Finland and several other countries. However, unlike most shocking movies that were banned for being too disturbing, NECromantic also has a cult following that praises it as an important work of transgressive cinema. Today, the movie remains simultaneously condemned for crossing ethical lines and positively recognized for sparking debates about artistic freedom and expression. Possession, 1981. Why was Possession, 1981, banned? Andrei Zulawski's Possession centers on the spy mark, Sam Neill, and his wife Anna, Isabella Johnny, whose already harrowing divorce eventually turns into a surreal and disturbing experience involving extremely visceral body horror. Apart from its intense visuals, Ajani's emotionally charged and unsettling performance as Anna contributed to Possession's controversial status, particularly her notorious subway miscarriage scene. The film's unconventional narrative and disturbing visuals led to bans and censorship in some countries, such as the UK. Despite the controversy, Possession has gained a cult following for its unique approach to horror and the powerful performances of its cast. Anab Baba, 1964. Writer and director Kenido Shindo's Anab Baba is a period horror film about two women, a mother and her daughter-in-law, who trick and kill soldiers for their weapons and armor in order to survive. Anab Baba was banned in the UK for its explicit sexuality, violence, and the overall moral ambiguity of its plot. At the same time, Anab Baba's cult following hails the film as a Buddhism-inspired allegorical tale about the inherent destructiveness of human desire. If there's anything that those loyal to the movie and its critics can agree on, it is that Anab Baba is an unapologetically disturbing and highly influential Japanese horror movie.